Hello, hello, my darling sweet friends! Ah! And welcome to this second module of the Braveheart Open Mind Coach Academy, where today we are talking about one of my absolute favorite topics, which is cultivating or discovering a delicious sense of self-peace for yourself. I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to call all of my modules one of my favorite things. That may very well be because I selected the curriculum to be totally poppin' and exactly what I would desire a future coach to know. So be that as it may, if you hear me say every single time that it's one of my favorite things, it's because it genuinely is one of my favorite things. And I feel like especially here in the beginning of the Coach Academy, we're covering like the most foundational, most luscious topics that lay the groundwork for everything that's to come. So when I say that discovering a sense of deeply rooted inner peace for yourself is one of the best things that you can do, mm, I mean it. And let's talk about why. Why is it that discovering a sense of self peace for yourself can be so foundationally life changing, can be so radically transforming? And before I do that, let me introduce myself real quick because you might be watching this on YouTube. So, if we haven't met yet, my name is Kayla Vavra. I am the founder of Braveheart Open Mind. I'm a self love coach and an emotional alchemy facilitator and poet. And it is my absolute joy to be bringing you this curriculum for free on YouTube so that you can change your life or your career regardless of what your financial means are, which is so exciting. That's why Braveheart Open Mind has its free replay policy so that all replays of things like coaching curriculum or meditations or self love harmonize activations will get posted to YouTube so that everyone can up level or sink more sweetly and deeply into their own darn beautiful self love, regardless of what their financial means are, because every single human person deserves to love themselves. So let's talk about why creating a sense of inner peace is such a foundational part of not only self love, but also chasing your dreams and changing your life. So, creating a delicious sense of self peace is important first and foremost because it is the antithesis, the opposite of self conflict. And self conflict is sneaky and insidious and it results in self sabotage. And the thing that it results most profoundly in is in self hate. So if we here at Braveheart Open Mind are all about self love, that means that the opposite or the tide that we are trying to turn is self hate, right? Because self hate can be so tumultuous. It can be dark, it can be twisty, and it can be one of the most disempowering feelings that you can feel. because it keeps you in that place of feeling conflict. It is the byproduct of friction being present in your life. And when you can create peace instead of that sense of friction, right? That sense of bumpiness, that sense of conflict, of you versus yourself. When you can turn that tide to look towards peace instead, you create a foundation on which you can build self-love, on which you can build a delicious sense of self-harmony instead of a cacophony or mess of all of these discordant notes that are all yelling at each other trying to win somehow, because it's always you against you against your fear, or your fear against your dreams. When we're constantly in that state of conflict and friction, that is a hotbed for self-hate to grow out of. Mm. And self-hate is so deeply unnecessary. I'm not saying it's not valid, because it is. Feeling those feelings are absolutely valid. It's a part of our human existence. And also, we are working towards creating a foundation of inner peace for ourselves. And don't you worry, always within the Brave Heart Open Mind Coaching Academy, we talk about why things are important, what they look like, and then we talk about how to do them. So we're not just dwelling on philosophy within this module. We'll also be getting to the hows of things in, I believe, the next video. So after this one, be sure to click onto that one so that you are understanding the concept and the philosophy, and then getting to the important part, which is how to do it, how to change your life. It's gonna be awesome. So now that we have this foundational layer as to why self-peace is important, because it is the deliciously cooling antithesis to self-hate. Let's look at a little bit. I'm looking at my notes and trying to talk at the same time, which is silly because I know that I can't read and talk at the same time, because then I just jumble things. So just a minute. Oh, yes. So sitting in these feelings of conflict, friction, self-hate, self, I don't know, being at war with yourself, right? That is what causes those symptoms of self-sabotage that you might notice for yourself, like perfectionism or procrastination that we've already talked about. It is the, I don't know, it creates the perfect, like, hot box for this dense fog of stuckness to permeate your life, to flow through your life, and to kind of take over in this haze that you can't see through, that you can't make decisions through, or at least not clear-headed, peaceful decisions, which always sound way nicer than decisions made under your own self-duress, right? Under your own self anger and hatred, right? When you're holding your own self hostage to try and get yourself to do something. All of that, my darling sweet friend, is deeply unnecessary. And we're going to talk about what that looks like and how to get there in a moment. So, oh, okay. This is a good metaphor, so I'll say it. We kind of already covered it, but I'll go back through it. When two parts of you or more are resentful of one another, they'll continue to push each other away again and again. So when this feeling of friction exists, until you do something about it, until you choose change, they will just continue to come together over and over and over again, and nobody wins. And this is the process through which self-hate is born, right? If that friction happens again and again, and two parts or more are constantly in this war, then resentment becomes hate. And it churns, right? This resentment just churns like the ashes that are emitted before a volcano erupts, right? The volcano being self-hate, right? And the ash coming out being that resentment and that friction. We can see it. And eventually it becomes self-hate. And eventually it becomes a situation in our lives that feels wholly disruptive. For me, it was years of depression in my late college years and early in my career as a teacher. It was rampant depression, not being able to connect with myself, feeling very out of touch with any type of feeling that I could feel, very desensitized to all of my emotions. And obvi, that's not a fun place to be in. And also, we're here today not to dwell on self hate, but to look at self peace as the turning point from which we can get from self hate to self love. Because if friction and inner conflict is the breeding ground, the growing point for self hate, then self peace, delicious inner peace, is the growing, like, delicious garden in which you can grow self-love. And I even brought a fancy plant friend on for today to really drive this cultivation or gardening metaphor home, right? That self-peace creates the soil or substrate in which cute little plant friends can grow. This little cutie patootie is my Hoya Larissa. And she's just got the cutest little speckles, like, especially this leaf. Oh my gosh, that leaf right there is the freaking cutest. No, I'm not turning this into a plant channel, but also I'm kind of turning it into a plant channel if it means that I can drive home this metaphor that what you grow your self love in matters. Because just like if you were to grow your plant in a soil that's like super acidic, right? That is going to impact negatively the growth of your plant, right? Well, I mean, if you're not into plants, maybe not, right? Maybe you don't know that. But it would super impact the growth of your plant if you are growing things in soil that are like zapped of nutrients, that are substrates that are tired, right? Or substrates that are harmful if there is like a pest that's in there, or yeah, acidity, those kinds of things. Without letting all of my plant nerd out. I hope that you get the point from that. And it was cute to see the little Hoya Larissa for a minute. I got her from my friend Janet, and she makes me happy. She sits in my bathroom, and I see her every day. I love her so much. So, when you can grow a cute little plant, cute self love, deeply life changing self love, from laying the groundwork of self peace, that is freaking life changing, my sweet friend. That is so life changing, you beautiful human who is capable of so much good, of so many big dreams, of such great things. When you can plant that self love in a delicious garden made of inner peace, that is when you get to change your life. Because what happens when you have inner peace, when you have that foundation of self peace, it means that you no longer have conflict. You no longer have friction. And when you can turn that friction into smoothness of peace and self-love, that means those actions that you were trying to take that felt so hard no longer feel as hard. They feel so much easier. And if those are actions that you are trying to take on making your dream life, buying a cozy, witchy cabin in the woods, or being able to be a digital nomad and take your family from country to country to learn from culture and different cultures, right? Whatever your dreams are, and if you're here, perhaps your dream is to become a coach yourself, then action taking becomes so much smoother, so much easier, so much faster. If you hear in the coaching space people talk about collapsing time and making quantum leaps, those things sound really magical and out there. And wouldn't it be nice if I could have that like they have that? And self peace is the way in which you cause that for yourself. Being at peace, eliminating conflict, eliminating friction, creating smoothness, peacefulness, self love. That is the way in which you collapse time. That is the way in which you create a quantum leap of action and success for yourself, my love. That's how it's done. And that is why this is so important to your journey as a coach, to your journey in a self coaching, in changing who you get to be for yourself, and then in the future for your clients, which is so exciting. So, what does it take? Oh, first, I wanted to talk about how there are, of course, a whole host of contributing factors to what can cause self hate, what can cause self friction, of which trauma and emotional abuse and so many things can have an impact on how we allow ourselves to be and how we can confuse or reroute or interrupt that natural flow of self love. For me, it was being in two emotionally abusive relationships and one that was also physically abusive, right? Like, for me, that is what interrupted so much of my natural flow of self love because babies are not born hating themselves. Right? Babies are born pure and sweet and loving and of light. And there are so many things that can contribute to those cycles and patterns of inner conflict and inner hate. And I wanted to be sure to acknowledge that. And if you are someone like me who has experienced abusive situations or other deep traumas, I fully recommend that you get help from a therapist or a licensed mental health counselor or whoever you decide can best support you in that, because processing through those things can feel really heavy and sometimes you might not want to do it alone. For the longest time, I I did all of my healing alone, and that is a slower road to walk, my friend. That was like a decade and a half long road, and I don't I don't want anything to take that long for anyone else. That is why I love doing the work that I do to help to streamline things to the best of my ability. And also, like, therapy can be so streamlining, right? Like, me participating in therapy finally was so life changing. So, I recommend that beyond what you learn in this video today, consider so many other ways in which you can help to support your mental health. Because some of those traumas aren't things that you want to revisit on your own. And I fully understand that. And I recommend that you get the support that you need. So, let's see. Do doodle do. I already said that. Don't mind me as I just read my notes off to the side here. Yeah. Okay, I said all of that. Cool. Okay. So, that really was the last thing before going on to what it looks like to create this sense of self-peace. So, when we are moving from the why this is important into the what it can look like, the what it can look like is rooted in this concept of having whole human compassion for ourselves. And that, my love, means having compassion for the parts of yourself that you are so deeply tempted to hate, that you are so deeply tempted to be angry at, that you are so tempted to push yourself away from, to create distance from, right? Because those parts of ourselves that aren't very nice sometimes, the parts of ourselves that say things like, "You're stupid, Kayla, you'll never be good enough," or "Why should they listen to you? You're an idiot," right? Those voices that I dealt with in the past. As little as a few hours ago, as I was trying to get through making this, I was like, why do I feel so caught in the weeds on making this video? Because part of me wasn't aligned. It didn't feel peaceful, and I had to go through my whole method that we're going to teach within this module to get myself to a point where I can teach. And the universe is funny that way. It always asks me to solve my own ish before I can teach other people how to solve their own ish, and that feels right and good. You can't Well, I mean, you can, but you shouldn't talk a talk that you haven't walked the walk in, right? And I've been doing this work of creating self peace and inner peace for like 2 years now. And it feels so good every single time after meeting myself and going through this process, how much more me I feel like, how much more expansive and free I feel. And it all starts with this note of having delicious, whole human compassion for yourself. Even the parts of you that say mean things like, "You're so dumb, no one will ever listen to you," right? Knowing that having compassion for that part of you who says those mean things is the key to creating self peace. You could simply just choose to have compassion. That sometimes sounds easier to say than it is to do, right? Because having compassion for those voices that you've spent so long like resenting, being like, "Oh my God, why are you saying things like that to me? That freaking sucks. I don't want to feel these feelings or think these thoughts. I don't want to have anything to do with you." That inherent like repulsion or animosity that we feel because we've been fighting these battles sometimes for years or for decades or since we were 4 years old. It can be easy for that prior resentment to have hold of us, to take the lead, to continue to take the lead. And if we let that temptation of continued resentment be in charge or be the one who leads, there can never be peace. If part of us is leading, or if both parts of us that feel in conflict are leading with animosity, then there can never be peace, right? It's the old Hatfields and McCoys like problem, right? That sense of conflict, that decades old feuding type idea. I mean, I was even watching an episode of Doctor Who where these Hoth were fighting humans in this like encrusted, entrenched battle that had gone on for generations, right? Like, when for generations or for years, decades for yourself, you've been entrenched in this self battle of conflict, it can feel almost like you don't want to be the one to wave the white flag because you're giving in. And I would urge you to view it as not waving a white flag. You're not giving in here. You're holding out an olive branch. You're saying, I'm willing to come to the table to talk, right? Being willing to come to the table to talk is the first step in being able to create this sense of peace for yourself. Having compassion for all of you is the first step. And perhaps what I say next will make things even easier, because what I would love for you to know is that most of these foundational beliefs that float through your mind as unconscious thoughts that just pop into your head, most of these unconscious patterns, thoughts, beliefs, were formed between the ages of 0, infancy, and 7 years old. So these beliefs about yourself that run on autopilot, that you hate, that you can't stand, that you wish you never heard, have been perpetuated, have been created by your 0 to 7-year-old self. That means that 4-year-old you is telling you that you're dumb. I mean, it's a lot easier to have compassion for a 4-year-old who doesn't have the logic to know better, to feel compassion for that 4-year-old who thinks she's stupid. Because that 4-year-old doesn't think you're stupid as an adult now in your 30s or however old you are. That 4-year-old doesn't think 30-year-old you is stupid. 4-year-old you thinks that she's stupid. So if you came across in your life right now a sweet little kid who is saying, I'm stupid, I can't do anything, no one will listen to me because I'm stupid, you wouldn't want them to continue feeling that way, would you? You would do everything possible for you. I'm like getting myself real emotional. That core wound of thinking that I'm stupid was a big one. That was part of what I was working on to be able to come talk to you today, because it was one that I really needed to finally feel at peace with before coming any further in the Coach Academy, to be able to authentically and beautifully tell you how to do this process for yourself. So if you came across today a sweet 4-year-old kid who thought she was so stupid that no one would ever listen to her the rest of her life, you would try and talk her out of that, right? You would try to pump her up. You would try to lift her out of that belief so that she believed in herself again. So if it feels hard to find compassion for those parts of you that sound mean, that feel cruel, know that they are only fueled by your sweet inner child, by sweet 5-year-old or 6-year-old you who internalized something that a teacher told them, or a parent told them, or a friend took out of context and told them. Someone made little you feel bad for something. And your unconscious mind has been repeating that on autopilot for all of these years. Because that's what your unconscious mind is designed to do. If 4-year-old me said something and got told she was stupid for it, her unconscious mind would automatically think, well, I shouldn't say things to people because I'm stupid, right? Not because it maliciously wants you to think that you're stupid. Your unconscious mind is not malicious. It loves you. In fact, its primary directive, its main function is to protect you and keep you safe. So if 4-year-old you never wanted to feel stupid again, her unconscious mind would continuously tell her for decades, don't say that. People will think you're stupid and then you'll feel sad. Let's not feel sad, okay? Let's just not say anything. And it gets distorted through decades of playing telephone with itself to you're stupid. No one will listen to you. You get so entrenched in this pattern that you believe it, right? So when you can track back those patterns, those thought patterns, those beliefs, those inherent identities of I am stupid. The phrase I am, sidebar real quick, the phrase I am is so powerful. Be very careful on what you allow to follow after that, because your unconscious mind will scoop it up as a part of your identity and keep it because you've told it that you are. And your unconscious mind desires to automate things for you, to keep thoughts and ideas safe for you so that it can give you your best life. It just is doing it sometimes with the logic of a 4-year-old because it learned something that long ago. Your unconscious mind learns so much more between the ages of 0 to 7 years old than it does at any other time in your life until you start learning these coaching tools to start teaching it new ways of being. And that's why this is so important. That's what this sense of inner peace gets to look like, is forging a relationship with your unconscious mind, with your inner child, from that sense of deep, whole self compassion. If you can internalize that idea that those cruel thoughts aren't coming from grown up you, but are coming from sweet little 4-year-old you hating herself, it's so much easier to have that sense of compassion, isn't it? So much easier to have that sense of compassion. Because with the way that your unconscious mind works, if you're still hearing those thoughts today, you never stopped being that 4-year-old. You still are, according to your unconscious mind, that 4-year-old little girl who doesn't want to feel that sense of pain, of being made fun of people thinking she's dumb. And it will do everything that it can for you, using backwards 4-year-old logic to keep you from feeling that pain. I hope so much that this is landing, because this is perhaps the most important part of being able to create self-peace, is that foundation of whole human compassion, that foundational understanding that if even you don't want to show current you compassion and love and hold out an olive branch to current you, you would be willing and open to hold out an olive branch to a 4-year-old wearing a cute, buttery yellow Snow White dress. I've got this cute picture. I actually think it's for my 3rd birthday of me wearing a Snow White dress that my dad got for me at the Disney store. So it's officially licensed merch. And little tights that had all 7 dwarves on it, because the sales associate saw my dad coming from a mile away and was like, "Sir, don't you need these tights to go with the dress?" And he was like, "Well, obviously. So I had tights with all the dwarves on them, right? It becomes easier when you remember sweet little you in whatever form. Oops, sorry, y'all. Biscuits, that's loud. I even turned on Do Not Disturb. Oh well, whatever. Don't know. I think it was an alarm for the call that I have in half an hour. Okay. Let's get my brain back on track from that. Okay, yes. Having whole human compassion for your inner child. And being able to devote to that belief that we're always working towards our own highest good. Your unconscious mind is always working towards your own highest good. Because in addition to adopting some of those like traumas that happened when you were 4, your unconscious mind between the ages of 0 to 7 is also soaking up all of the morals and values from the people around you. So if you can reflect right now on what your top values are, then you can know deeply that your unconscious mind is working to uphold those values. Maybe it's freedom or love or family. Living my life wild and free are some of my top values. Wild, deliciousness, and freedom. So take a few moments and reflect on what your top values are and see if you can adopt that idea that no matter what, you are always working towards your highest good. And adopt that idea that if you can just have compassion enough to hold out an olive branch and say, hey, self, we should talk about this. If you can consciously make that decision to come to the table and ask those other conflicting parts of you to do the same, then we are in the perfect spot to move into how you create this self peace. Now that we have the why it's important and a what it looks like, tapping into your inner child, we can get into the how in our next video, which is so freaking exciting because in the next one, we officially learn the peace talks method and it's going to be so freaking juicy. And I cannot wait to see you over in that video. If you are watching this on YouTube because you are following along with the Coach Academy there, I so super invite you to click the like button if this video is something that you like, or click the thumbs down if you don't like it. I mean, you do you. I think it counts the same in the YouTube algorithm, so share your opinion with a thumbs up or a thumbs down, although I would prefer the thumbs up. And then please feel free to subscribe to the Braveheart Open Mind channel because there is so much more. We're only at the beginning of like a 6-month journey for the Braveheart Open Mind Coach Academy. So there's so much juicy goodness to come. So if you hit subscribe, you will be sure to know about all of the videos that I upload, included in the Coach Academy and everything else. And I was like, there was one more thing I was going to say. All of this curriculum being here on YouTube is made possible by Braveheart Open Mind's free replay policy because we believe that all human people should have access to self-love curriculum and support and resources, and not just support and resources of any kind, of the highest quality that people would pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for. For me personally, to get my 3 coaching certifications, I paid about $15,000, right? So me putting this content, this curriculum on YouTube is truly founded by the belief that every human person should have the ability to love themselves and to change their lives or to change their careers if they desire to do so. If that is a mission that appeals to you as much as it appeals to me or appeals to you at all, I totally invite you to join the Braveheart Open Mind Patreon, because that is what helps to sustain this curriculum being uploaded onto YouTube. So there will be information about how to get in on Patreon, and from my heart to yours. Ooh, nope, wait, there was one more thing. If you join as a devoted self-lover on Patreon, you also have access to support calls for the Coach Academy curriculum. So you can pop on to Q&As and have intimate group coaching sessions, which is so good. You get your own personal questions answered, and you get your own deeply devoted, intimate coaching with other humans who are following along with the Coach Academy. So check the details below in the description. From my heart to yours, I am sending you so freaking much love. And I hope that you have a freaking amazing day. And I cannot wait to see you over in the next video where we dig into the hows of creating sweet, delicious self-peace for you. I love you so much. Okay, goodbye.